Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So we've got a 2000 or 2001 Suzuki Carry. We are doing the valve seals on this because it smokes from startup, or if it sits at a light too long. The valve seals are the biggest problem with that. So I'm going to show you how we do the valve seals in the car. If you want to see how we get to the valve seals or timing belt or all this other stuff, taking the camshaft out and whatnot, I actually have a video on a Suzuki Every, which is the van version. That one's carbureted, this one's fuel injected, same idea, however. So the big thing with this is you want to get the cylinder that you're going to be doing, because you want to do one cylinder at a time, you want to get that to top dead center. So since these are little engines and stuff like that, I can turn the crankshaft. And I'm going to point this at the mic because this is an easy way to tell it's at top dead center. So I have the hose coming out of the cylinder, and so that's sucking in, that's blowing out, right? And so if I put my hand over it, it'll okay, so it stopped making any noise when I turned, which means it's no longer pushing the piston up. It's at its top dead center. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to figure out how we're going to hold the crank. Because when we put air pressure to it, because you want to put air pressure in the cylinder to hold the valves up. But when we put air pressure to it, it's going to want to spin or push the piston down, either the correct way or the wrong way, but it's going to want to push the piston down. So we want to hold the flywheel. And I have a way to do that with pretty much a flathead. It's not the greatest way, but it's the way that I know how to do it with how this is set up. There are flywheel holding tools. I don't have one that'll work with this thing. There's just a little hole under there. But I'm going to get that set up so we can keep the flywheel roughly where it needs to be. And then we're going to add air pressure to it so that it'll catch and the flywheel will stop moving. And then the air pressure will hold the valves up while we get the keepers out. Well, can't say I'm proud of it. I'm going to tell you this is the right way to do it. I just have the flathead held in there because I'm doing this by myself with the jack, and I tried to turn the crank by hand and I can't, which I could before. So we're going to put some air to it and see if it pops out. All right, we're going to plug in the air. I've got the dial all the way down, so shouldn't be much air going into the cylinder at all. All right, we got none. I'm going to start adding some air, and we're going to see if the crank moves. Alright, so we should probably be good around 50 psi, which percentage wise you'd have to do a thing because this has that, but it's not a bad leak down actually. Alright, so this is from my valve toolkit. As you can see, it has been adjusted. But because of how this is, and I don't have one that actually fits heads these small, I use a socket that's big enough for it. That way I can shove down on it and I'm not shoving against this because the springs aren't super strong. And usually what I do for these is I give them a little love tap before I try to push to try and break any hold that they have on, because granted, they've been on there for almost 30 years. Okay, so I saw them wiggle. We'll get our magnet. Dropping the tool is fine, but dropping the valve is not. They do have specific ones that are more of a 90 than these, but these work really well. Come on, buddy. There we go. Old valve seal. Let me get the new valve seal and some engine assembly lube. Got some engine assembly lube there. Now we're going to go push this one on. So it's going to go over, and it's snug on this, so you don't want to just shove it straight on because the valve is still being held up with air pressure. we got that down. That's the old one. All right, so we got the new valve seal in. I'm gonna light just to make sure it's fully seated. So I'm pushing on the outside of it where it's got a little ridge, not on the seal. Yeah, that's not going down anymore. All right, so now we're going to put this back on. And then I actually learned something from the last one that I did, but we're gonna see how well it is. I'm gonna get some more grease. We're gonna put it on these. I'm gonna kind of rest them in there. And then I'm going to hold pressure on top of them as I push the whole thing down. And that should let them stay kind of together and then wrap in. It'll make more sense when I show you. So put some grease on this one. And then you shove them in there. Okay. So see, they're in there, but they're not all the way down. Okay. So I'm going to use this to help guide them in as I push. Get in there. I'm gonna try it with this sideways. And I'm gonna keep pressure on the top of them. There we go. So I've got 11 more to go. I won't make you go through the painstaking process of doing that. But doing that over and over again, you know, hopefully by the end of it, you're doing better. And then if you, like I said, want to know how to put everything else back together, I even throw some torque specs in there to help out our other video with the Every. But that is changing out a valve seal inside of the car.